This is Two Chicks Talkin Flicks, where we review movies. Love them or hate them, someone's got to do it. So enjoy the show. Hi, I'm Sarah, and this is Two Chicks Talkin Flicks, and anything else that gets in the mix. And I am joined today by Chris from Cinematic Anarchy. Hello.
Hello once again. Hi. How are you?
Great. Thank you for joining and continuing our October La Vista, baby.
You can do it this time. I'm gonna hold off on the Arnold impressions.
Yay!
I'm gonna try.
I know, right? I made like a little thing, and I was like, we've kept the Arnold impressions to a minimum. It might be maximum.
I don't know if we really
some,
did,
but hey, it's okay. It's my show. I can do what I want.
We dipped into it several times more than we probably should have.
Well, it's just so easy. Honestly,
we don't have to worry about it too much for this upcoming.
Yeah, no, he wasn't really in it. Like his being was in the movie, but he didn't say anything. So it was very T1 of him.
Right.
So we are pulling a fast one, and if you are here thinking, oh, we're so going to hear their thoughts and feelings on Terminator 3, you were wrong, because we have skipped that movie because it is the only one that they do not have streaming anywhere, and I just didn't feel like buying it since I didn't have to buy the first one or two. There was like 3 packs. There was other ones. I didn't feel like purchasing it. So we're skipping it. But Chris is going to give us a synopsis of T3.
Well, okay. I'm going to give you somebody else's synopsis. So I had a very long night last night out at the drive-in watching Beetlejuice, and part of the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
How did you like Beetlejuice?
I'm about 50-50 on it.
I
think a lot of it was good. I really think that, and this is just me possibly wanting to torture myself a little bit, but I think that they could have added a little bit more to it. They could have put a little bit more into it.
Spoiler alert for those who have not seen it. I didn't see Ghost Kid coming.
No,
I kind of, like, as soon as they were in the room and it was Halloween, I kind of had that feeling, like when they started to kiss and they were flying, I was like, wait a minute. But the shock that he murdered his parents, I was like, oh, I thought maybe there'd be like an arc where he didn't actually do it.
Right.
But no, he was a bad guy. So,
I mean, further spoilers here. I mean, outside of Ghost Kid, I thought Ghost Kid was going to be the focus of the movie.
Oh.
And then they took another 180 and decided to make the focus of the movie. I mean, you saw it coming a little bit, yes, but it was apparently Beetlejuice and his wife before he died.
Yeah.
Which was, I guess the entire backstory there, and they wove it in. But I really was hoping, that's where I was hoping they had put a little bit more into it.
Okay.
I think
that
Ghost Kid deserved a lengthier beginning to end.
Yeah. And the fact that his parents were dead, like that whole thing, I was shooketh. I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't see that coming. And I feel like I'm pretty good about knowing when twists and turns like that are going to happen. But I was completely caught off guard.
I think also Monica Bellucci playing Living Dead wife really deserved a better death scene. I think it was just tied up a little too easily.
Yeah.
Like,
my whole thing is, I don't remember in the first one. Maybe you might. We've watched it within the last year or so, but his name is Beetlejuice, and we've all seen how it's spelled. But in all of the papers and stuff that they would show in this movie, it's spelled differently.
Spelled with a G rather than with a
juice.
Like Beetlegeist, like as in poltergeist.
Yeah. Oh.
Rather than Beetlejuice, which is.
But was it like that in the first one?
I think so. I remember the pamphlet from the first one.
And it had the Geist on it?
I think Alec Baldwin and Gina Davis's character ran across the Beetlegeist because it's supposed to be like a. What do they call it? It's basically supposed to be a poltergeist, or he is supposed to be a poltergeist that takes care of the living to help out the dead, basically.
Okay.
So a reversed exorcist, so to speak.
That makes more sense, because I was like, then why is it spelled differently? It really has been bothering me. And I kept trying to look it up, and like nothing would pop up about it. So I was like, well, whatever.
And why didn't they call him Beetlegeist?
Right?
But I guess that doesn't roll off the tongue quite as well.
Yeah, that's true. Okay. No. So your thoughts on somebody else's thoughts about T2 or T3.
Okay,
sorry.
So Terminator 3 Rise of the Machines. We didn't watch this, or I did watch this because I went out and bought a physical copy, but apparently you can't find it streaming anywhere due to like distribution rights being tied up for it.
Yeah.
So there's no way for them to put it out streaming right now. That being said, I'm going to just read off a synopsis written by a Derek O'Kane. More than 10 years after Terminator 2, John Connor now exists only as a drifter living off the grid. So no more Terminators can hunt him down in the future. Unfortunately, Skynet does send another one back, and this one is called the TX. Even more powerful and advanced than the dreaded T-1000. However, another CSM-101 Terminator is sent back to protect John Connor against the TX. Now Skynet computer systems under the guise of a computer virus. John has also met his future wife, Kate Brewster, whose father, a U.S. Air Force general, is in charge of the military computer systems and is leery of linking Skynet. However, the Skynet virus, when the Skynet virus infects the U.S. military computers and leaves the country open to attack, the machines begin their horrific attack. Soon a nuclear war will result, and the war against the machines will begin. Can the outdated CSM-100 Terminator eliminate the highly advanced TX, or will the darker future await man following the nuclear attack?
Huh.
And pardon my brain there. I went from one line back up a line, and I was like, oh, wait a minute. I'm rereading the same thing. But this sort of sets up what we see in the movie that we're going to talk about today. Basically, John Connor finding his wife, who we see in this film, and obviously not the same actors.
Yeah, no.
Because I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Terminator 3 was sort of a flop.
Probably, most likely.
But we're not talking about Terminator 3, are we?
No, we are not. We are talking about Terminator 4 Salvation.
You can lead us into that one.
Yeah, so, I don't know if I've ever seen it. I kind of feel like I have. But the poster for it looks super, super familiar. So that's what makes me feel like I probably have seen it. But any hoozlebees. I don't know. Okay, so we were very distracted when we first started this movie. I don't think I've told the people on here, but we have a new puppy. So we have 2 dogs. They're siblings. They're litter mates. And we have had them for over a year. Actually almost 2 years. And my sister got a Ring notification one day that this person found a puppy and it was injured, but they couldn't take it. So they just left it. And we're like, why? And then she saw it again later on, like an hour later. And we're like, let's go find this puppy. At least we can take it somewhere to get help. Well, we drove around and we found, we didn't see it. And then my sister decided to drive around one more time, and we see something like scurry off in the distance. And I was like, hey, I think that's it. And so we went over and we found this puppy. She was really tiny. She had a broken leg. And we fell in love with her instantly. And so now we have a puppy. So we're trying to watch this movie yesterday, and she was going bananas. We have her in a little playpen thing, because she's not supposed to be running and jumping around. She finally got her splint off, but we don't know how long she had the broken leg. And so her tendons are really tight. And so we're having to take her to do physical therapy. And so she's still kind of limping, and it hasn't grown as strong as her other legs because it was broken and she couldn't use it. And so it's a lot smaller than her other legs. And so we have to keep her kind of like to herself so she doesn't play with the other dogs. But she doesn't like that. She actually gets real mad about it. And
puppies are playful in general.
yes. And so we like to call her Devil Dog. So she's very sweet. She's very sweet. She's very cute. She's quite adorable. And then all of a sudden, she gets that vampire face like you would see like on Buffy when, their like teeth would start to show. And that's when you know they're about to bite you. That's what she does. She just becomes the devil, and she likes to bite. And it'll just be all of a sudden she's perfectly fine, perfectly sweet, and then she's like and like making this crazy horrible noise. So she was in her own pen, and she was screaming and wouldn't stop. And so we tried to put her in a cage, and she wouldn't stop. And we tried to do this, and she wouldn't stop. And then my sister had her, but she wouldn't stop barking and biting her. It was a whole big thing. So we had to like rewind it and start from the beginning twice. So we were kind of like, I don't know what's happening in this movie, because it just kind of starts. And we're just like, okay. And it says it's 2018, right?
Yes.
All right. So the math don't math. And maybe you can fill in stuff for us. Okay. So, first movie, Kyle Reese gets sent back in time. And his timeline is what, 2029? I believe?
Right. I believe so, yeah.
Okay. Now, the Terminator that comes back with him, is that from his timeline? Or is that from a different timeline?
Okay, well, I mean, I'm trying to figure out what math you're trying to math here.
Well, okay, just stay with me. So, okay. So in the first one, Kyle Reese comes back to 1984, and his time is 2029, which and then we also have the Terminator that comes back at that same time to try and kill Sarah Connor. So is that a Terminator from 2029 as well?
I imagine, because we didn't approach any kind of time travel in this movie at all.
Okay, so that one is not a very advanced Terminator, right?
So that's about 11 years of not so very advanced Terminators between technically this film and when Kyle Reese was supposed to have been sent back.
So when in the second one, when we have the new Terminator, he's more advanced. He can go liquid. He can change up his look. Like, he's more advanced.
Right. Notice that they don't provide you an exact date as to when that one came back from, though.
Exactly. But then in this one, he's from 2018. And I was like...
No, the math is the math is correct there, because all this is
well, but he's more
John
advanced than the Terminator that was from 2029. So this 2018 Terminator that's like half human, half Terminator. I know he's the only one of his kind. Right. But how is he better before the Terminator in 2029 that was Arnold? That doesn't make sense.
I think that the reason why they didn't make any more of him, he is one of a kind. But this is literally a human Terminator hybrid. They didn't remove emotions.
Right.
They didn't remove most of his memories. And I think a lot of what he was them experimenting with how do we make a more human Terminator, one that can infiltrate and kill and not be suspected of being anything else but a Terminator.
Yeah.
Or anything else but human.
It just seemed
and
like he was still more advanced than the one that's from 2029 that wasn't very advanced. So I don't know.
I think they just realized he was a mistake.
Could be.
Okay, this is definitely not what we want. We don't want a human that can infiltrate other humans.
Well, because they have mind of their own.
Right. They left him too much of his own memory, and he decided, you know what, I'm not going to deal with you guys.
Yeah.
So what they want is a human that's more machine than or a computer, blah, blah, blah. I'm tripping over my tongue here. I am sorry. I am still trying to recover from last night. What they want is a machine that can act human, but not exactly have the free will of humankind. That's where they made the mistake with Sam Worthington, I believe his name is?
Yeah.
That's what they made the mistake with him, and they decided, okay, that's not the way we're going to go. They learned from their mistake, and that's where you get the T-800, the Arnold Schwarzenegger Terminator.
Yeah.
So human-like, but no free will of his own.
Well, what was really funny is that I was working on something while we were watching the movie because if I hadn't, I was going to fall asleep. And so I was looking down, but I heard Christian Bale's character, John Connor. I heard him talking to, who was it? Dallas Bryce Howard's character. Oh, Kate. Yeah, Kate Connor.
Yeah.
I heard him talking to her, and he was talking about Kyle Reese. And, he had just heard the tape that his mom was like, he'll be a teenager, blah, 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 blah. And then the very next scene, we see this man walking around, Sam Worthington. I assumed that was Kyle Reese. And then I heard him and Marcus talk to each other. And I didn't look up when they introduced each other. And so when he said Kyle Reese, I was like, oh, okay. So Sam Worthington is Kyle Reese. So I was sitting there assuming that is what happened. And I kept thinking, like, Anton Yelkin, he looks more like Kyle Reese would. But I thought, well, whatever. And then I told my sister, I was like, hey, that guy died in real life. And she was like, how? I was like, he got hit by his car getting the mail. It like rolled down and hit him. And she was like,
no.
She was.
He didn't get hit by a car getting the mail. He was fixing a car, and the car basically dropped and rolled over him.
Oh, I heard he was down at the bottom of his driveway, and it like pinned him against a gate.
Maybe we read two different things. I'm not going to go look that up right now because it'll take too much time, and I was not prepared to talk about the death of Anton. As sad as that makes me, because he was a fantastic actor.
Yeah, yeah. And so my sister was like looking at IMDb, and she was like, I think you have the wrong person. I was like, no, he died. She was like, no, he's Kyle Reese. I was like, no, the other guy's Kyle Reese. So it took a moment for us to realize what had happened.
I almost watched the director's cut of this.
Uh-huh.
I realized and I had to pull it out. I'm like, okay, no, we can't. I'm not watching the 2-hour plus director's cut of this right now because I don't think that was what you watched.
No, I watched just the regular.
Because I know that Terry Crews was supposed to have a much more in-depth character in the very beginning of the film.
Uh-huh.
Because he's supposed to be the brother of Barnes, the guy played by Common.
Oh, okay.
Who gets basically killed by the Terminators early in the movie. You see him just for a split second.
Yeah.
When John Connor climbs out of the hole and he realized, oh shit, something's wrong. Terry Crews is laying dead here. And I was like, oh, okay, well, there's a lot more Terry Crews here. It's like, this is not the right film.
Yeah.
Because I know that he got cut out of it.
That's
It's
sad.
disappointing that they cut him out of the original film. You should watch the director's cut, at least for the beginning.
Yeah. Um, I don't know what I was gonna say.
I took you out of your mental track there for a minute. I apologize.
That's okay.
It's like I'm going to talk about things that you didn't watch and recommend that you watch the things you didn't watch. And oh shit, I confused you. My apologies.
It's all right. Well, like I said, I know I've seen the poster for this movie. I kind of feel like I saw it. It makes sense that I would. But none of it really like tracked for me, and I was like, I have no idea what's happening. But
This movie,
I did enjoy it, and I feel like besides the timeline of the Terminators, like how they advance, besides that, I was able to kind of keep up. That just keeps bothering me. But obviously, technology is better now than it was then. So, of course, the technology of the Terminators will be better now than versus then. But
well,
yeah,
this film also plays like, as weird as it sounds, because we're talking time travel films.
yeah.
So this movie plays as both a sequel,
Mm-hmm.
Basically advancing the storyline from the third installation, but also plays as a prequel at the same time, basically showing everything that leads up to him meeting Kyle Reese, and eventually he gets sent into the past. So I'm just minorly disappointed that, and I can't be disappointed in an accidental death, but he wasn't alive long enough to basically give a sequel to this film, providing that complete loop to the past.
Yeah. So one thing I thought was funny because I had Kyle Reese and Marcus mixed up. I thought Marcus had said to Kyle Reese, "Come with me if you want to live," and I was like, "Oh, is that how he got that saying?" I was like, "That's so funny." He like retained that and was like, "I'm going to use that sometime." But
I do remember John Connor saying, "I'll be back."
yes, yes. Yeah,
That
I had
floored
that
me. I was
down
like,
here
what?
in my notes too. Um, I like that they were like, "What happened here?" And they said Judgment Day, and I was like, "Oh, look at that, going back to
They're
the."
dropping all sorts of unintentional little puns here.
I know I like when movies have little Easter eggs for people who have seen, the prequels or sequels or whatever. I always like when shows and movies do that.
Outside of that, the first three movies set a precedent of a mostly action, a little bit of humor with a slightly romantic undercurrent.
Yeah.
All three films. This one is almost 98% action with very little humor.
Yeah.
Outside of those little puns that they threw in here and there.
Well,
And no romantic undercurrent whatsoever, because I'll be honest with you, John Connor and Kate, his wife, they don't feel very romantically involved outside of the fact that she's obviously pregnant with his kid.
Yeah, no, there was nothing there. But I mean, they really didn't focus on them. They were not the focus of this movie.
No.
Because there was romance between Marcus and the girl he saved. I don't have her name in front of me.
The one played by Moon Bloodgood, I believe
Yeah,
her name is.
yeah.
Blair
Yeah.
Williams.
There was romance going on there. So we did kind of get that. They have to put that in for the girls who go see these movies with their boyfriends.
A little bit. There was a little bit. I didn't feel like a very strong romantic anything. I think it was just, this guy saved my life.
Yeah.
I see good in him. I see more human than I see machine. And
Yeah.
so she was giving him the benefit of the doubt, whereas everybody else would have just been fine tearing him apart.
Yeah, I like how John was quick with the uptake when Common came into the room, and he was like, "Hey, they said you need me," and he's like, "No, oh no," and he instantly knew what was happening. I was like, "Oh, that's good job, John."
Like, oh, no, I didn't call you. We need to go find out what just happened. Because she was obviously against them doing what they were doing to him.
Yeah.
So she sent them off so she could free him. And he was like, oh, okay, yeah, thank you. That was a trick that you didn't see coming, sir. Nice. Good job.
Right. One line that I really liked was they said the difference between us and them is we bury our dead. And I thought, oh, that's so poignant. Because we're human, so of course we would, but they wouldn't because they're machine. So why would they bury them?
Why would they think they recycled their dead?
Yeah. I mean, hey.
So that's sort of like...
renew, reuse, recycle, right?
I mean, that's sort of like cremation, right?
They melt them down, yeah?
Their version of cremation is essentially melting down the spent Terminators and making them into new Terminators.
Yeah, then, why waste? No waste.
No waste whatsoever. So I guess they're less wasteful than humans are. We just bury our humans in the ground.
Exactly. We just
what use is they under the ground? I mean, nothing's growing here.
We don't even make them into trees or anything. Some people do.
I don't think I saw too many trees outside of like the initial like drone thing from the beginning of the movie.
Right.
Like everything else is just a barren wasteland.
Yeah, we're just years away from when these movies took place, and it's like, I hope it doesn't look like that.
Well, I mean, 2018, the bomb's already dropped.
Oh,
so
that's true.
Technically, this is in our past.
We've
survived Skynet.
And now we have those damn AIs.
All right, come on, James Cameron. How do you explain that one? Come on. I'm waiting.
I also liked when Marcus says, "I'm not a good guy." It sounded very Terminator of him. When he was talking to Blair, he's like, "I'm not a good guy."
Not a good guy. No, you're not a good guy yet.
Yeah, true.
So she's basically giving him the chance to be a good guy. I liked her reply to that. Like, no, you're not yet. Give it time. You will be a good guy.
Yeah.
I think my favorite line from Marcus has to have been one of his opening lines in the film. Okay, so he's a murderer. He's in jail in the beginning of the film, and he basically agrees to sign away his body to science.
Yeah.
At the prompting of a Serena Kogan, who basically heads Cyberdyne. She's dying of cancer.
Mm-hmm.
And he asks for a kiss. He goes, fine, I will give you my body for science if you kiss me.
Yeah.
He kisses her because she obviously had some sort of attraction to him to begin with, because you could tell how she was treating him. That wasn't her scared of him.
Yeah.
She was afraid to look him in the eye because there was an attraction there. He kissed her. She obviously was shaken by the kiss, like, oh, wow. And the first words out of his mouth after he pulls back, when he looks at her and goes, wow, so that's what death tastes like.
Yeah.
I was floored. I was like, okay, this movie has me already.
I didn't understand all of that. What exactly was happening. And I didn't have my dad there to translate. So I was just like, okay.
No, he's on death row. He was basically getting ready to be killed. He was a murderer, killed the two cops and his brother. That was the line that they gave him for how he signed away his body.
Well,
like, okay, well, easy explanation, I guess.
Again, that was when our dog was going bananas. And so I couldn't really hear a lot of it. I did hear the kiss part. But why he was there and what was, like, I kind of understood he was giving his body to them. I just didn't know any other thing. So I didn't know that he was a murderer, didn't know any of that stuff. So, yeah.
So I have like terrible ADHD, especially when I'm exhausted. I had to roll this film back, I don't know how many times. Like, I got distracted by so many things, and there's nothing going on in my house.
Don't
It
you
was
hate that?
quiet. So I got distracted by nothing. And then I'm like, turn around, like, what just happened? I know something just happened. I could roll it back.
You know, sometimes that's the worst when it's quiet and you have ADHD. Because you're like, why is it so quiet? What is
This is why
happening?
I'm thankful for Blu-rays and DVDs over VHS.
Right.
Having to roll back a VHS tape every time I lose myself.
Yeah.
The only problem is I was so exhausted when I started watching the movie last night. I didn't hit the rewind button. I kept hitting the home button on my Blu-ray player because I didn't stream this, obviously. It would have been a much better experience. But I kept hitting the home button, and what that does is it brings you out of the Blu-ray altogether to like the home screen.
Yeah.
And then I have to go back in and go to the chapter where I was and then kind of find what I missed and then start from there.
Yeah. That's
But after doing that 3 times, I'm like, I'm going to go to sleep and then I'm going to wake up and finish the film in the morning.
Makes sense.
And that's my apology and excuse for being late to this recording today.
It's okay. It's all right.
I'm going to call myself out.
Maybe you can tell me this. So they find a signal that can make the Terminators blow up. Is that fake then? Because later on they're like, haha, they're in our trap. Ha 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 ha. So did they fake that?
I think they explained everything in that like moment between him and the Skynet computer.
Yeah.
Like when Marcus and the Skynet computer were talking to each other, they used him.
Yeah, yeah.
Basically, everything that he did was supposed to be to bring John Connor and Kyle Reese to Skynet.
Yeah.
They didn't anticipate what he was going to do afterwards, but the signal that they provided that was supposed to disrupt whatever signal that the machines had with the Skynet-based computer, that apparently was fabricated.
Yeah.
They provided the signal as part of the ruse to get them to all converge on Skynet so they could eliminate John Connor, Kyle Reese, everything all at once.
Yeah. But luckily, they didn't actually go to Skynet, right?
No, they all went.
They didn't go wherever the other people went because they didn't get blown up with everybody else.
Well, I think the intention was to use the very naked Arnold Schwarzenegger computer-generated thing. That took me out of the movie for like all of a few minutes when they like scrolled up on naked kind of Arnold.
Yeah. And then it looked like he ingested the Terminator body in his, like, as he looked like he walked through him.
Something to that nature. It was weird.
Because at first I thought he was going to help the Terminator kill them. And then it looked like he killed the Terminator. And then all of a sudden it looked like he absorbed the Terminator. So I was like, oh, what is happening?
Oh, that was like, okay, I know what you're talking about. So when he first came out, I believe Kyle Reese had incapacitated one of the Terminators that had a Gatling gun.
Yeah.
And so it was, I don't know if it was like its aiming system or whatever, but it was just shooting everything.
Mm-hmm.
So when the Terminator first walks into the scene, he completely just tears the thing in half and throws it on the ground.
Yeah.
I personally thought that he was just going to use the upper half of the Terminator to like shoot at them.
Yeah.
But I was surprised that he dropped it. But yeah, it was a quick succession of scenes. It was that, then him attacking John Connor, then John Connor using some sort of, I don't know if it was a grenade launcher or something that just melted the entire outside of the Terminator off him.
Yeah. But then he used the cool air to freeze him, which was impressive.
Oh, no, yes. Then there was, you skipped ahead a little bit.
Oh, Well, that
That
was
was
that was in the same part, right? Because he was like melted and coming after him, and then he like got to that grate where the cool air, and then it froze him.
I believe the scene goes
I don't
grenade
know.
launch. It was this. I had to rewatch the scene 4 times, so this is the only reason why I'm remembering this in succession. Otherwise, my brain would have been lost.
Okay.
It goes Terminator ripped in half by Arnold Schwarzenegger naked.
Yeah.
Then flesh of Arnold Schwarzenegger naked being completely burnt off by Kyle Reese. Oh, not Kyle Reese. John Connor firing grenade launcher.
Yeah.
Then there's a fight scene between, I believe, Marcus and the robot, which leads to John Connor trying to escape a little bit.
Yeah.
They end up in the bowels of the factory.
Yeah.
Outside of the clean space.
Because it's always a factory. Always got to be in a factory when you're fighting Terminators.
Right, exactly. It all has to be fat. Well, you have to have the molten lava from somewhere, all the old melted down Terminators, you know? And then Terminator knocks out Marcus completely, basically kills him for all of a couple minutes anyway. John Connor decides, okay, I'm not going to shoot the Terminator. I'm going to shoot the barrel that has the molten lava in it above his head, or molten metal, which tries to melt him down. So I guess the mechanics from the first movie where, hey, or the second movie where, hey, you know what? The hot molten lava melts us down.
Right.
I guess takes a little more time than that.
Yeah. I was like, wait, it worked in the other movie?
Like, I was so pissed off. I didn't know how that Terminator survived.
Yeah.
But Terminator survives. Sort of freezes when he shoots a cooling unit, I guess, or a tank.
Yeah.
And then breaks free of being cooled. It was weird. Like, there was a lot of liberties taken at the end of this movie.
Yeah, all I kept thinking was, where's the smasher? Where's like a metal smasher? Because you melt him and then you smash him.
Right?
I
liked the movie for what it was, but they took a lot of liberties at the end to just keep that robot going.
Yeah. My sister asked, what happens if Kyle Reese dies? Does John just like poof, like a snap, you know? He just is gone?
I'm guessing that's what the whole thing is that I don't think he'll die. I mean, killing him would create another timeline altogether, wouldn't it?
What if he's a Terminator?
Kyle Reese is a Terminator?
No. John. What if John is actually a Terminator?
I guess he might be part Terminator by the end of the movie, right?
Right.
Because the Marcus Terminator says, hey, take my heart.
Yeah.
Which I believe they stated at one point was enhanced, like a much stronger than a regular human heart would be.
Yeah.
So does that mean that he has a Terminator enhanced heart in his chest?
Who knows?
This is why I wanted a sequel. I wanted a direct sequel to Salvation.
Well, he does have that cut on his face. Now we know how he got it.
Yeah, very true. The molten / half frozen Terminator just scratching him across the face.
But if he was a Terminator, that would have been fixed. So I guess he's not a Terminator.
I mean, I guess this movie should have had a foregone conclusion anyway. Everybody should have expected John Connor's going to survive. He's going to save Kyle Reese. Because if they pulled some sort of twist fucking ending where, oh, hey, guess what? We killed off John Connor at the end of this. And he didn't get to explain to Kyle Reese that he has to go back into the past to make sure to complete the loop.
Yeah.
So we knew everything that was going to happen at the end. We just didn't know how we were going to get from point A to point B.
Yeah.
I was mildly disappointed, but not so much that I hate the movie.
Is Sarah Connor still alive in this?
No, I think Sarah Connor's dead at this point. Because all he has is the tapes of his mother left. I'm not sure. Did they ever explain how Sarah died?
Oh.
I
Yeah.
believe they might tie that up in the last movie, if I'm not mistaken.
That's why I kept thinking, like, I wonder if she's alive somewhere. Just sitting on a castle. Maybe she works for Skynet, you know? Twist.
Sarah Connor works for Skynet. She's the one that basically set up everything with the Cyberdyne systems.
Yeah.
What happens if Sarah Connor is eventually a Terminator?
Hey. Maybe.
Wouldn't that have taken her right out of her head if Sarah Connor was sent back in time to kill Sarah Connor?
Yeah, I don't know.
What do you do when you have to fight with yourself?
I want to know how John felt when he met his dad. And he never tells him that he's his dad. So, because he's playing by Back to the Future rules, you can't tell them.
Right.
Or it'll change something. But like, I don't know what I would do if I met my parents when they were teenagers. And
yeah, that would be really, really weird. What if you traveling back in time was the entire reason why your parents had you?
Yeah.
Or what if somebody that you personally know was somebody that you had to send back in time because they were your father?
Yeah. That'd be a mind trip for sure.
It's like, okay, this person who my mother had been with for a very short period of time, she tells me all these things about them. I've grown up knowing this person and who it is. I've grown up knowing that I have to find this person and send them back in time. Otherwise, I won't exist. That's a weird bit of strain to have on anybody.
Yeah. I like that he met him as a teenager, so he had to wait till he was an adult, or that would have been weird.
I'm genuinely surprised more people didn't treat John Connor like he was psychotic.
Right.
Just like his mom. Why don't we have a therapist for John Connor?
You think he told anybody that that's his I guess he told Kate, I would assume.
I imagine that he told Kate. I imagine there's very few people that know why he has to find Kyle Reese.
Yeah.
He's very dedicated to saving the world. He's very dedicated to finding Kyle Reese, and he's very dedicated to saving Kyle Reese in spite of the fact that his boss, the general, basically wants to blow Skynet off the face of the planet.
Yeah.
Which we learn was never a possibility to begin with.
Right.
Again, I don't know why he doesn't have a therapist in this movie.
I don't think they exist back then or in the future. Because
it's possible. A military therapist.
I mean, there's not even trees. So I think everybody's just depressed.
Mr. Connor, I know you have been obsessed with trying to find this Kyle Reese for years and years and years. We need to sit down and have a discussion about this.
Yeah.
Because
they don't
it's
have
starting
time.
to get in the way of your job.
I don't even think they
no.
have time. They don't eat. Like, did you ever see any of them eat?
I didn't see anybody eat.
Yeah.
At all.
They don't ever go to the bathroom. They don't ever eat.
They ate bullets.
You know, they
that's about
just
it.
Aggression and probably black coffee. Like, that's what they live
There you
off
go.
of.
They eat aggression and black coffee for breakfast. That's how they exist. I think that would have been really weird if they took breaks in this film for them just to eat.
Yeah.
or hey,
we're going into battle. Get your granola bar.
Can you imagine being solidly taken out of the action, like mid-scene, somebody stops, like goes to a porta potty and just sits there and does their business for 2.5 minutes?
Well, I mean, the part where after Marcus rescued Blair, like they could have been eating around the campfire, you know.
I mean, I think it was meant to basically kind of lay a backdrop of the I guess, anxiety that they have to deal with, that at any moment they could be attacked. So stopping even for the most basic human tasks is near to impossible. That's why you don't see them eat. You don't see them rest. You really don't see them sleep. You know, it's just constant movement, constant action, constant worry the entire film.
I think that The Walking Dead should take a page out of their playbook then, because I feel like a lot of them would survive if they just kind of, never stop moving.
Well, can you
wear
imagine
leather.
if they became militarily organized in The Walking Dead and focused on clearing the walkers instead of focusing on trying to rebuild society immediately?
Yeah. Yeah.
We want comfort. We want peace. We want to get back to how normal things used to be. And that was always their focus in that show.
Yeah.
And there were very few groups that were like organized like military. And the ones that were the wrong kind of psychotic.
Like, they could have built sky bridges and stuff,
They could have. Why not build your societies in the trees?
Yeah.
Why are you on the ground where the walkers can reach you? Stop that.
Yeah, they are notoriously bad climbers, guys. Come on.
Right.
Actually,
they just kind of walk and bump into things.
There's a comedian that has a joke about The Walking Dead. And he goes, they should be wearing leather. He goes, I've tried to bite into a sandwich that was a little too toasted. He goes, the zombies have human teeth. He's like,
I mean,
they can just wear some leather.
Barely human teeth, like rotting teeth. Like human teeth that haven't been taken care of in decades. That's what they have.
Yeah. So,
but I mean,
you could
that's why I think they had the whole thing kind of in the South, because it's impossible to wear such thick clothing down there. You would dehydrate. You'd be out of it in no time.
That's true. I've never actually watched the show. I've watched parts of it, but I've never actually watched the show. So
I'm just finishing up season 11, the last season of the original Walking Dead before moving into Fear the Walking Dead.
Yeah, I have no leg to stand on when I talk about it, so I probably shouldn't. But I just feel like there's things they could have done. Go north.
I'm going to be honest with you. If you ever sit down to watch the show, the first season was a little rough to get through.
Okay.
Then seasons 2 through, I would say, about 8.5 to 9 were great.
Oh.
And then by about midway through season 9, it's just, okay, I've already gotten through season 9. I have to get through the next couple of seasons because I know they're going to end it by 11.
Oh, yeah.
So, because it was just like 12 episode seasons. They weren't tough to get through. But the last two
really
seasons,
short.
they went for 22 episodes.
Oh.
And I was
long.
like, why?
Yeah, that's a lot.
They were doing it to tie up the show, to basically give it a completion and be done with it and move on to other things. But it was just rough.
Yeah.
I'm a completionist, so I'm going to finish.
See, I would have had one season because we would have just gone north. Just go where it's cold. Go to Alaska. You're not going to see a lot of zombies.
They eventually do.
Well, spoiler alert. Jeez.
Well, no. This is not spoiler alert because you don't get to see that in the actual show.
Oh, okay.
You don't get to see that until they move on to other shows because there's 3 spin-off shows from the original.
Oh, really?
So outside of them having Fear the Walking Dead, which happens a little bit before and then during The Walking Dead, they have 3 spin-off shows for individual characters that happen directly after season 11.
Oh. So, sorry. Excuse me.
Yeah, there's a lot of Walking Dead out there right now. I'm only mentioning the 3 spin-off shows because there's other spin-offs that are not worth watching, from what I understand.
Wow. It's kind of like The Big Bang Theory, how they have like a gazillion shows.
Yeah, I mean, I think, though, Young Sheldon was fairly well received, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I watched like the first episode and then I stopped.
It lasted for what, like 6, 7 seasons?
Something like that.
It was out there for a while. I watched the whole thing. I think I watch a little too much TV now that I think about it. Probably.
I loved The Big Bang Theory, but I didn't watch Young Sheldon.
That's why I felt dedicated to it. The only reason I felt dedicated to Young Sheldon is because I watched all of The Big Bang Theory. And it's like, okay, well, now I want to see how Sheldon grew up. And it wasn't bad, but it didn't feel like The Big Bang Theory.
Yeah.
It felt like a little bit more of a mixture between The Wonder Years and My Name is Earl.
Oh, yeah. Sorry about
I imagine
that.
that's going to take a small amount of editing.
Yeah. So sometimes when I get those sneezes, there's nothing I can do until I blow my nose. So it wouldn't have stopped. It would just kept on going.
That is absolutely fair.
And what really sucks is that I will be completely fine. And then as soon as I go to record, my nose just gets real stuffed. I don't know what it is.
I'm going to be honest with you. So I want to say I have mild asthma, but I also have severe issues with allergies.
Yeah.
So I have issues, especially during like the spring and summer. Like when I'm sitting down to record, I'll be perfectly fine for some reason. And the second I sit down, it's like I have to puff off my inhaler 4 times to get through an episode.
It's weird,
like,
right?
Okay. So you haven't gotten to experience that with me yet, but you'll see me just like, hold on a minute, and I got to stop and I got to puff because I'm out of breath.
Yeah.
And I can't get a sentence out.
It's so bizarre. I don't understand.
So I understand the congestion, trust me.
Yeah, I thought, okay, you know what? If I sit up, maybe that might help. Because usually April sits in my chair and I lay on my bed, which is fine. But I thought, okay, maybe if I'm sitting up, that won't happen. It's actually worse.
Oh, geez. Yeah, because like when you're laying down, sometimes it helps the drainage.
Yeah.
But then second you sit up, it just everything stops up again.
Yeah. So weird.
Yeah.
But okay. Let's power through.
Where were we?
So Marcus is now a good guy. He takes out his chip. He's going to help John and Kyle, and he is against Skynet.
Okay, so we were back. Yeah, we talked about the battle that ensued shortly thereafter.
Yeah. Then,
I thought he was going to do something else.
What did you think he was going to do?
He reached back, and when he started like saying that he knows what he is.
Yeah.
And he reached back to crush that chip in the back of his head.
Yeah.
I thought he was just going to rip everything off and go like full exoskeleton.
Okay, that's what I thought too. I thought he was going to rip his face off.
I was waiting, and then they stopped. And I was like, oh, come on, just that?
I'll have to say, that man has very meaty hands. Because when they showed him in the back, I was like, wow, those are really chunky hands for such a tall guy.
Can we roll back for a minute?
Yeah.
Before we talk about the end, because I want to ask you something.
Okay.
There's a few scenes in the movie where I don't know if they didn't realize that it was obvious, but it feels like, okay, one of the first Terminators that you see, the one that attacks Marcus, was a beefy Terminator.
Uh-huh.
Like, he was stocky. Like, they had put the guy in a green screen suit.
Uh-huh.
And just sort of filmed around him or something. Like he was just a real, like almost a short but heavy Terminator.
Uh-huh.
And then a few scenes later, when they're gathering like Kyle Reese and all the people in pens, and you see another Terminator standing up over them, kind of with a Gatling gun watching them. That Terminator has a head covering on, a turban of some sort. And I'm just trying to understand. I mean, I guess that might have been to keep the rain off of important cybernetics. I guess they might not have built that into some of the older models.
Oh.
But I just thought you don't see that in any of the other movies. You just see them marching forward and destroying things.
Yeah.
So you don't see beefy Terminators because they all look the same.
Right.
And you don't see Terminators with essentially turbans on their heads because they all look the same.
Yeah.
And this movie just made all sorts of weird things. Weird Terminators.
I guess it's like the Barbie movie. You find out that there's all these like weird Barbies when you go to their like headquarters. You find out all the different things that they've tried in the past. So I guess maybe it's like that because, you know, they're behind the scenes of enemy territory.
I wonder what kind of power it would have taken to send one of those building tall Terminators into the past.
Ooh, that would have been fun.
Why haven't they tried like a Terminator Godzilla movie?
Right. Baby's Day like. Out with Terminator.
Also talking about nearing the beginning of the movie, was that the same gas station? The one that Marcus pulls into in the military vehicle, which strangely looks like Connor's mother's Jeep.
Oh.
Was that also the same gas station where she took the picture?
You know what? It probably is.
Like sort of a throwback to the original film.
I bet so. I didn't notice it, but yeah, I don't know. I bet you it was.
Okay, I'm done reminiscing now. We can go back to talking about the end of the movie.
Do we think that was Linda Hamilton's voice on the recordings? Because it didn't quite.
Oh, I definitely think it was.
Oh, really?
It sounded a lot like her.
Oh, I didn't think it did.
Like there were certain recordings that she did for the other movies.
Oh.
Like the very end of the first movie, and then like little recordings that she did in I want to say the second movie. I can't remember if he had recordings to go by in the third movie at all. Because I watched it, but I was half out of it when I watched the film, if I'm honest. And when I realized that we were going to kind of skip over it because of the lack of access to the film, I was like, okay, well, I don't have to really pay attention now, do I?
Yeah. Yeah, you know, I feel like this one just doesn't have as much meat as the other movies. Like it was, like you said, it was more action, less substance. It furthered the story along, but I don't feel like there was a lot to it.
Well, I think that this film in general, because of the nature of it, there's not a lot of humanity behind anybody but Marcus.
Yeah.
You don't get a lot of...
I feel like Kyle Reese has humanity to him.
What little you see of him in the film.
True.
There is, but again, so many people in this film that you interact with are devoid of humanity because their focus is solely on taking out Skynet to be able to continue humanity.
Yeah.
So actually, that is the only time you get to see anybody sit and eat in this film, is the 2-day-old coyote scene. It's like, what is this? It's a 2-day-old coyote. Does this taste any good? Oh, well, better than 3-day-old coyote. You know, that was probably one of my favorite Kyle Reese lines in this film.
But at least we know that John survived, Kyle Reese survived, Marcus survived.
There really isn't even any humanity in the little girl that follows around Kyle Reese.
Right.
Because there's an entire scene, and God love them for trying this out. And I know that I'm rolling back to the beginning of the film again, so I apologize. But there's an entire scene where she is obviously knocked out face down in the dirt for some reason during an action sequence. And Marcus picks the little girl up or what we're supposed to believe is the little girl, which is obviously a mannequin and or dummy that is lifeless and stiff. And just carries this stiff mannequin underneath his arm in the guise that this is just an unconscious child. Which, under any other circumstance, he would have, like, maybe put her over his shoulder or done a fireman's carry or something.
Yeah.
And I'm just looking at it like, why is this child hanging out underneath his arm, stiff as if rigor mortis has already set in? I thought the kid was dead. I didn't think we were going to see the kid the rest of the movie.
Surprise.
Well, and obviously the mannequin's faced away from the camera the rest of that sequence so that you don't see that it's not human.
Well, when we see her later and before John puts her and Kyle Reese in that little box or cage or whatever, there's a part where she, like, there's a trigger. And it goes to the side. She looks at it. I thought she would pick it up and that was going to be something. But I don't think anything ever happened with that, did it?
No, I don't think so.
So it's like, what was the purpose of that?
You see her so many times during this film. Not a single line. She doesn't say anything.
Yeah.
I think the mannequin thing, the lifeless body, was them being able to do an action scene without having her actually in the scene.
Yeah.
Because possibly it was just too dangerous to have a little kid in that particular scene. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think they did anything with that switch. I think that it was just sort of there and then they didn't explain anything. Might be in the director's cut. They might have a better explanation as to what happened there.
So do you have anything else on this movie?
I mean, outside of him digging his chip out and deciding to side with humanity over Skynet, which computerized Helena Bonham Carter was definitely pissed off about. Outside of that, I don't have a lot else to say. It was a great film. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I would probably watch it again. I understand now why Christian Bale had issues because of this film.
Oh.
So you saw Christian Bale's attitude throughout the entire film, right?
Yeah.
Christian Bale is
a method actor.
He's a method actor. So when he gets into a role, he is that role.
Yeah.
So the screaming that he was doing at everybody on set, it's because he is that character now. Everything that he does in this film is with intensity.
Yeah.
There was even a scene where he's on the ground talking to Michael Ironside, the general, and it's just one word response for every question. How many people are left? One.
Yeah.
First of all, sounded like Batman there.
He did.
Second of all, he projected intensity with every word that he said throughout the film.
Yeah.
Even when he was trying to be calm.
Yeah, we're like, maybe that's just how he does an American accent. He just always kind of sounds like Batman.
I am Batman. It's just, you can hear it in him. You can see that he's trying to kick the Batman thing in a couple of scenes here, but no, you're John Connor now. You're not Batman. You can go back to Batman after this.
You know, we just watched the first Joker. We're going to go on Monday and see the new Joker. And I was thinking about that because Joaquin Phoenix is the same way. He takes on the persona of every character that he does, just like Christian Bale does. They're super method actors. And they even do things that the studio does not ask of them. Like when he was not Norman Bates, when he was American Psycho, he like got his teeth done so they were a certain way in the movie. You know, he does this or does that, and they were like, we didn't fucking ask him to do that. He just did it.
If you've ever read the book, I think he read the book for that, but he gets into his role deeply.
Yeah, and so does Joaquin Phoenix. And all I could think was the whole time we're watching it, I go, this is a much darker Joker than the Joker that Heath Ledger played. Could you imagine what it like?
You know what?
Obviously, probably the same thing would happen, but
Now I'm gonna say this very lightly
okay.
because he's obviously played Batman. Okay. There is a version of Batman, an alternate universe, where Batman basically becomes the Joker.
Oh.
He is the Batman who laughs. And after seeing him do so many method acting stints, I would love to see Christian Bale at some point in the DC universe be brought back as Batman, but that version of it. If he can sort of take the Batman persona that he did from that film and mix it with the Patrick Bateman character,
yeah,
I think that he could pull it off with no problem.
Yeah, probably.
But a highly underrated actor as far as I'm concerned. Or maybe he's not. Maybe he's rated just about right because people love him in a lot of his movies. They just don't like some of the attitude he gives off behind the scenes sometimes.
Yeah. He's kind of a dick.
You got to give him a pass in some areas. I'm not going to say that he is justified in being that way, but if you fully embody a role and then the attitude behind the scene is the same attitude because he is a method actor and will not step outside of that role until he is finished.
Yeah.
You got to give him a slight pass. Keep away from him. Walk away. Because you know what you're going to get into. Oh, wait, Christian Bale's a method actor and we're going to make him this intense dickhead the entire film. Maybe you want to not expect that he's going to be anything but an intense dickhead the entire film.
Right? Well, and like Leonardo DiCaprio isn't a method actor per se, but he did say that when he was, oh God, what is that guy? He was that pilot.
Okay.
Not in Catch Me If You Can, but the other movie.
Howard Hughes?
Yes. When he was Howard Hughes. He said that like there was a lot of intricate things that he learned about Howard Hughes, and he started to like have that in his day-to-day life because he was trying to be Howard Hughes as much as he could to stay in character. And I guess like when he was picking at people's like shirts and they had like lint on them, he goes that started to bother me in real life. And he would just be like going and like trying to pick off people's like lint and stuff on their clothes when they weren't filming anymore. And I could see where, you get really into a character. That could happen.
Would it be evil of me to basically shit on Leonardo DiCaprio's legacy, like right here on your podcast? Would you be mad at me for that?
Why would you do that?
Pardon me. I'm going to just say one little thing about Leo.
Okay.
And it's going to be a controversial thing, so to speak. I can't watch Leonardo DiCaprio movies for the most part.
Ugh.
There's a handful of roles, including The Aviator, The Revenant, and I believe Django Unchained, where I have said this is a fantastic Leonardo DiCaprio performance.
The Revenant was really good.
Also, What's Eating Gilbert Grape?
Yes.
These are roles where Leonardo DiCaprio embodied the role with no problem.
Yeah.
But outside of those roles, and I've seen quite a few Leonardo DiCaprio films, and I've avoided several others, he feels like a much more bankable, like I want to say A-list, more bankable actor in the vein of a Nicolas Cage. Because almost every role that I've seen him in outside of those handful that I've mentioned, and even Nicolas Cage has his handful of films that he's done the same thing, where he's stepped outside of himself for a few minutes to be something else. Everything just feels like Leonardo DiCaprio. Like I'm watching Leo just be himself.
Why is it okay for Ryan Reynolds to do that, but it's not okay for Leo. Because Ryan Reynolds is pretty much himself in every single role that he is in.
Because Ryan Reynolds roles in general understand that Ryan Reynolds is Ryan Reynolds. They're not trying to be something else other than Ryan Reynolds. It's just, okay, what if Ryan Reynolds was Deadpool? Okay, what if Ryan Reynolds was a fat guy that became thin? You know, it's always Ryan Reynolds and his attitude. And they're like, we love his attitude. How can we put that attitude in this situation? Because kind of like an Adam Sandler. Most Adam Sandler roles are just Adam being Adam.
Because Deadpool is basically him and Van Wilder, which is basically him in real life.
Exactly. So they don't try to be, and there's only one or two roles that I've seen for Ryan Reynolds where I feel like he might have stepped outside of himself a little bit, and they were pretty damn good roles too. Go watch a movie with him and Anna Kendrick called, I believe, The Voices.
Huh.
Watch that film. He basically plays a serial killer in that film, but he plays a Ryan Reynolds-esque serial killer.
Speaking of a killer... Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, speaking of a killer, have you seen the movie Trap with Josh Hartnett?
I have not yet.
Oh, it's so good.
As a movie lover, and then this is just going to be, it's not controversial or anything like that. It's just me being me. As much as I love going to the movie theater, I have realized in my advancing years that the money that I would spend to go see one movie, because it's not just me, I would have to bring my wife or my son or a couple people with me. The money that I would invest in going to see one single movie, I can sit in the comfort of my own home with a big-ass TV.
Yeah.
And watch multiples for that price.
So, we didn't go to the theater to see it. It's streaming, but I think it's
streaming now?
Yeah, I think it's $19.99. But there was 3 of us watching it, so we were like, well, that's basically just us going to the movie. Actually, it's cheaper than us going to the movie for all 3 of us.
Hell of a lot cheaper.
Yeah, so we rented it. It was really good. We very much enjoyed it.
I can justify the price of a brand new DVD. I cannot justify the price of 4 to 5 brand new DVDs to watch one film.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely you guys should watch it. It's
I plan to. I have seen everything M. Night Shyamalan has done.
Yeah. It's really good. So, we very much enjoyed it.
The good, the bad, and the really, really ugly of his films. There's some of them that are terrible.
Well, speaking of terrible or good, whatever, we do have to rate this movie. So what would you rate this movie?
Okay, so rating this film, having seen 4 of them now, and I have seen the other 2 films in this series, so I'm just kind of rating it against the other films that I've seen. I would probably give this a solid 7.5, not quite so melted Terminators.
I would give it, so I didn't think the movie was bad. I just felt like there wasn't a lot of meat for us to talk about. So because of that, action-wise, it's probably like a 10 out of 10. But story-wise, for us, I would give it probably like a 6 out of 10.
Okay.
6 out of 10. 6 out of 10.
See, that's the problem, that you can't immediately pick something memorable out of the movie to just kind of tag that with.
6 out of 10.
6 out of 10 something.
Something's Anton Yelchin. I'll just go with him.
We'll give him Anton. 6 out of 10 Antons. Yeah. That makes perfect sense. I mean, he's one of the better parts of this movie.
Yes.
I think that they spent a little bit more time on giving these characters an emotional connection, I would have rated it higher.
Oh
I would have
yeah.
given it an 8 or a 9.
I don't normally condone movies being longer. So it depends on the movie. If I'm really into it, I enjoy a long movie. If I'm not into the movie, then I'm like, oh, is this ever going to be over? But sometimes you need dialogue, you need backstory, you need stuff. And a lot of times action movies want to take out the stuff, but sometimes you need the stuff.
Yeah, I mean,
Oreo, the single stuff, the regular Oreos used to be fine. And then the double stuffs came around and you're like, ooh, those are really good. Now the double stuffs are basically a single stuff and they have triple stuff that's basically a double stuff. And
the
then
mega stuff.
the regular Oreos are just, they're kidding. Like it's nothing.
Oreo thins.
Yeah. Yeah, it's basically an Oreo thin. And the Oreo thin, it's just a cracker.
Basically.
So, sometimes you need the extra stuff. The cream part's the best part. And we didn't have cream.
I should have felt more invested in John Connor almost dying.
Yeah.
We should have, as an audience, been more invested in John Connor fighting for the survival of not only himself, but his pregnant wife.
Yeah. Like, is it because Christian Bale is a polarizing person? Is that why maybe we don't connect with him? Or is it just the character and the way they wrote it?
I don't think that's true, only because I've seen him in the Batman movies, and you can feel some personal connections between him and the female characters in those films.
Okay.
And in some of the other characters that he interacts with in those films. I think it's just this film, they focus so much on John Connor that other characters in the film were almost expendable. You could have taken Bryce Dallas Howard out of this film, and it would have been the same film.
I have to disagree with you. As much as they focused on John Connor, I feel like we didn't see him as much as the other characters.
But it was his mission the entire time. It was getting John Connor from point A to point B.
That
was the focus of the film.
It was.
Marcus was the focus.
Yeah. And I actually would have loved to have a little bit more of him. Because
that's who you felt the connection with.
Yes.
When John Connor almost died and he decided to give up his heart, you had the emotional connection to him, not to John Connor.
Exactly. Yeah. And
like at the end of the film, I was like, "Oh, John Connor's about to die. Oh, Marcus, come on, no." I didn't want Marcus to die.
Yeah, no, didn't.
Go ahead, John. Change the future. Die now.
And the question is, does Marcus come back?
Well, I don't think so.
Oh.
Because they've taken his heart out, so I'm guessing that pretty much killed the rest of the human part of his body.
That would suck. If they can make a half human, half cyborg, I feel like they could give him a heart transplant and put a heart back in him.
I'm surprised that they didn't try to, or I should say the humans didn't try to perfect what Marcus was for their own use. Because Marcus was pretty much the perfect backup for them to be able to fight against Skynet.
What would have been really cool is if Marcus was not the prototype, but the same as the Terminator from Terminator 2. Like if he's the one that comes back to protect John, that would have been a cool tie-in.
That would have been interesting.
Because he kind of has an Arnold Schwarzenegger look at the beginning of the film. Like, you're like, oh, that would have been cool if they had modeled him after or, modeled that character from T2 to come back and help John later. But maybe, I don't know.
Like, I know that I can just see Skynet debating, okay, well, this guy looks all right, but what if we make him look like Mr. Olympia from the 1980s? It's not Schwarzenegger enough. Remember this guy from some action films back in the 80s? We need to make him look like that.
Yeah, unfortunately, we had Arnold doing he's very Arnoldly. He doesn't talk a lot, and when he does, it's in his Arnold Schwarzenegger talk. So obviously Marcus was not him, but if they hadn't had that, it was just like a normal dude who talked normally, that would have been a cool tie-in to that.
Here's one little thing from a movie that we didn't watch. Do you know what the actual name that they tried to tag the Terminator from the third movie is?
Uh-oh.
So it was called the TX, but they tried to basically call it the Terminatrix.
Oh. Okay.
Which is weird because you have Christina Loken in basically head-to-toe leather.
Yeah.
Terminatrix. They basically tried to create a dominatrix Terminator.
Huh. Interesting.
One of probably the few, I want to say, bankable roles for Christina Loken in general was that film. It did make money. It didn't flop altogether. Worldwide, it made back twice what it actually had for a budget. So it made like $450 million versus a $200 million budget.
Yeah.
But I don't think Christina Loken did much of anything after that.
Nope. Well,
that's just me giving little tidbits on a movie we didn't even watch.
Yeah, I like tidbits. Definitely from that one restaurant. Oh, those are Timbits. Never mind. Those are good too.
Tidbits. Those are good as well.
But all right. Well, where can the people find you?
We are found in way too many places at this point. We're found on pretty much anywhere you can find your podcast worldwide at this point. We have gotten ourselves up on several things that are almost exclusively in other countries. And if I could remember the name of those places, I would tell you, but I don't have my little transistor app in front of me. So we'll just say Good Pod, Spotify, and all the other fun places to find your podcast. We are also up on YouTube, and we'll be uploading our first live, if not badly shot video sometime in the near future.
Ooh, fun.
I'm not sure based on your release window for this particular episode when that'll be. It may have already happened.
Oh. So, but, we'll look forward to seeing that in the past.
While you are doing a review, an October La Vista thing, we are doing a review on all 6 of the Resident Evil films for our Halloween broadcasts. And that's the first one that's going up, is the first Resident Evil movie review.
Oh, fun.
If you can call what we generally do on our podcast a review.
Yeah, ours is not a review as much as us just talking about the film.
It's a comfortable discussion that eventually leads somewhere.
Yeah. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. That's okay.
I like it. We break down the film more here than I think I do on my podcast. I think my podcast is definitely more ADHD than most people's.
Well, it's because I just sometimes I have questions. And,
That's the sign of a good movie, though.
Yeah, questions.
You don't want somebody to walk away and say, okay, that was fine. You want somebody to question things. You want somebody to think about what you put out there.
Exactly.
You want it to be on someone's mind. Even if it's a bad film, if it's on somebody's mind and you have questions about it, you've appropriately affected them.
Exactly.
I feel that way about my podcast in general, because people will listen and then they'll be like, oh, why does this exist?
What is that about?
I'm bad-mouthing my podcast instead of dragging people to it. Hey, it's been here for 6 years. Why? I don't know.
I don't know. Somebody listens. I feel the same
You need to tell
way
them where
sometimes.
you can find yours, right?
Huh?
Do you usually talk about yours?
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, I talk about mine. I tell people about it.
Well, we have to have you back on ours as well. I love showing up on this podcast when you ask me to. So.
Yeah, we need to get something going. But
yeah.
All right, guys. Well, thank you, Chris, for being here. We're almost done with our October La Vista, baby.
Just a handful left.
Yep. And until next time, guys, toodles. This episode was produced by Two Chicks Talkin Flicks. Music was produced by Michael Giovanni. If you like this episode, please like and subscribe. If you'd like to be a part of the show, have a movie suggestion, or just want to give us some love, you can email us at twochickstalkinflicks@gmail.com. Thanks, guys. Toodles.